Not quite the start we were dreaming of at Stamford Bridge. Chelsea nil, Crystal Palace nil. This is my review, my thoughts, breakdown and everything in between of Chelsea's opening day game at Stamford Bridge in the Premier League. So much buzz, so much optimism. I think so much hope of this season being really good for Chelsea. And it was very, very anticlimactic, not only in terms of performance, but result. A result that you can't really grumble about in terms of fortune and what Chelsea deserved from the game, really. Palace were well-structured, well-disciplined, kept Chelsea at arm's length, restricted them to very few opportunities and could have walked away with more themselves in this game. And Chelsea, just something fell off. And it wasn't just on the pitch. I think off the pitch pre-game, of course, with the whole ticketing drama, that very much, I think, engulfed everyone in many ways chaotically around Stamford Bridge, even trying to get in the ground. So just wasn't quite there for Chelsea today. It's a very long season, and I know that's very easy to say on day one when things haven't really gone your way. But you've got to factor in that Chelsea uniquely didn't have a pre-season. That last weekend was our pre-season. There are new players bedding in. There is an opponent in Crystal Palace who are very, very good, very confident and very well compact. And it is a type of test and structure that Chelsea are going to have to get good at breaking down. And I think those things have to be worked on. I don't want to go overboard. You shouldn't be going overboard. I think there's still a lot to like about what I think is to come from Chelsea in this season, and especially I think in upcoming weeks. It just wasn't our day. It just was a 0-0, and it wasn't like Chelsea in the entirety of the 90 minutes didn't create anything. I think I'd be much more concerned if I walked away from today where Chelsea had barely touched and barely even tested Crystal Palace. I think it was a case of just our finishing was wayward, and also I think our passing was wayward, and I think that coupled with Palace, I think being on their game defensively, of course, hurt Chelsea. As you may notice, if you're watching on YouTube, wearing a very cool t-shirt here, a new one, literally just delivered from the brilliant people at Kind Souls. And this t-shirt from Kind Souls, which is a great initiative in itself, is in collaboration with the Paul Cannavale Foundation and their Love Chelsea, Hate Racism campaign on the back of the shirt as well, which is really cool. And it's a lovely shirt. It's also in part with another initiative, Mirror Mirror, which is helping to inspire young people to get into music. So go and check out Kind Souls, link in the description box below. And yeah, really, really cool t-shirt. Really do enjoy it. It's a very nice, very comfortable. I'm going to be wearing it a lot over the course of this season. So thank you to Kind Souls. And obviously, you know my work with the Paul Cannavale Foundation this year, involved in the Fantasy League. I'm going to be doing more stuff with the foundation over the course of 25-26. So the starting 11 was almost identical to what I predicted. Knowing my luck, as it usually is the case, I record, I upload, publish my preview for the game where I predicted Tosin Adarabioyo to be in Chelsea's defence, and then literally a couple of hours later, we get the news that Tosin is not going to be available. That in itself is a concern, and I think that in itself was a bit frustrating and maybe cost Chelsea today. But defensively, it really didn't, because, you know, Josh Achimpong comes in, he takes his opportunity. Let's go through the general game and then we'll sort of nail down onto several individuals. There was just something missing about Chelsea from the off, and I think there was sluggish passing. Chelsea found it very difficult. I think tactically the thing that I noticed being at the game today, watching Palace and the way they tried to counteract Chelsea and did so effectively for large periods to kind of stifle what Chelsea were trying to do when they were building up, was the block of Mateta, Eze, Sarr, Walton and Hughes as really getting into that middle area and preventing Chelsea having that combination of passes. And whenever Chelsea were sloppy in possession, which they were, especially in the first half, they were there to mop up, to very much force Chelsea down into positions where they're not going to cause Palace a lot of problems, or just force them back into their own half and try and restart the move once again. And that was something that was continuous. Enzo Fernandez, Cole Palmer, João Pedro, those three struggled to combine, struggled to get a foothold on the game. I thought Enzo was poor on the ball. Palmer really didn't get involved in the game really until later on when we made subs that I think opened up more space for him. And João Pedro was really a bystander for a lot of the game, which, his first real step back in a Chelsea shirt. Obviously, it's been 100% really in terms of positivity so far. We knew it would end at some point. But, Palace had clearly they came with a game plan. I think they knew where Chelsea maybe would struggle against a team that would sit deep rather than try and press them. They started the game pressing Chelsea, and it nearly, of course, got them the goal. There was the Eze free kick just outside the box that he rifles past Robert Sanchez, and we thought it was 1-0. But then, of course, the VAR intervention. I have not watched it back, but it seems like it was the right decision. I think the frustration maybe from a Palace and other people's point of view is maybe inconsistency, that is the kind of thing that won't be picked up on regularly. We will see over the course of this season. I am very suspicious that this new goalkeeper 8-second rule isn't going to last that long. That's something I'm going to point out. I think that, like other gimmicks that get brought up every summer, that the PGMO are really going to nail down on this year, and then it's forgotten about in a couple of weeks. And I think maybe some of these things will be forgotten about in a couple of weeks, as kind of is historically the case. Chelsea didn't really get going in this game, and the tempo and flair and kind of just the sense that Chelsea were getting on top of Crystal Palace never really came into effect. There was a Chalobah chance in the first half that he should have got on target from a scuffle after a set piece. But in terms of just open play, Chelsea looking more threatening, it was really when Estevao Willian came off the bench. The excitement, the buzz around Stamford Bridge when he came off the bench was as insane really for a guy who hasn't done much in a Chelsea shirt, but there is an excitement and a kind of an energy whenever he gets the ball. And literally his first action, he takes it down that right wing just below me where my seat is, and gets across into the box that causes chaos. He nearly, of course, scores a debut goal himself, which he absolutely should have left for Pedro Neto. And there was a sense that with his energy on the pitch, suddenly Palace had more to worry about. They had to commit more bodies towards the right of Chelsea's attack, and suddenly you have Cole Palmer finding more pockets of space. So I do think that my initial hot take from the game is I wouldn't be surprised if Estevao is in the starting 11 for the West Ham game, because I don't think Gittins imposed himself that much in this game. He was really a bystander. We saw that Pedro Neto moved on to the left, starting from the right, which was expected from my perspective. But I don't know. Again, it's, you don't want to go overboard and say rip it up and start again, because this attack and these players have been playing well for a very long period of time, or at least the recent months. And on another day, I think Chelsea could have come away with 3 points. There were opportunities late on. I mean, Andre Santos, who also came off the bench, scuffed a shot well wide. I mean, it's the sort of chance he got at Strasbourg where he was so good at burying, and he needs to become good at bringing that to Stamford Bridge for him to assert himself in the starting lineup. Gusto made a really stupid decision when he could have played the ball to Estevao. It wasn't like playing Estevao in, but he made a stupid decision trying to take a shot. Decisions like that, very much helped Crystal Palace when maybe the swing of momentum was going in Chelsea's favour. But it seemed like after a while, that short burst of energy from bringing on Delap, from bringing on Estevao, from bringing on Andre Santos, there was also another period when Crystal Palace had some counter-attacking opportunities. I do want to give some credit to a couple of players here. I think, firstly, Josh Achimpong. Yes, on the ball, he was sloppy, and he did make some silly errors in possession that nearly cost Chelsea. Never to a point where a player was one-on-one, but counter-attacking transition opportunities, which is where Palace want to thrive. Luckily, either he was the one making up for it, Trev was there, Caicedo was there, as he always is, and that's something for him to learn. But I thought against Mateta, a very physical centre-forward, there was one specific moment in the first half when he had a physical battle with Mateta. I think he kind of lost out, but then won the ball back and then made a flying challenge that Mateta takes him out, and he got a big celebration and kind of support from the crowd for that. And for a guy, again, very young defender who's under scrutiny to come in on short notice, I think, for him to keep a clean sheet. I thought Trev was very good. Sanchez, I like that Sanchez now is kicking the ball long much more often and much more frequently. That's what I like to see. The accuracy isn't always great, but I prefer him do that than the short passing stuff that I think concerns a lot more of us. Reece, given he was on a yellow against Eze, I was concerned he may get himself sent off, but that wasn't the case. Cucurella just wasn't as much of an influence. Again, when he's inverting in that central role, you want him to kind of either be someone who can be an attacking threat or just offers a bit of an overload. I never quite felt that as the game was going on, and Jamie Gittins was never quite able to impose himself or find a space on that left side to really hurt Crystal Palace. And Liam Delap did have an effort where the ball comes over his head. He volleys it into the ground. Hennessy saves it. Again, Chelsea late on, there were set-piece opportunities. We were trying to press Palace back, just couldn't find that goal. And I guess defensively there's a lot of concern, but, this game defensively wasn't a game where Chelsea were exposed, were they? I think the defensive conversation will be that with Levi's ability to press Chelsea further up the pitch and his ability on the ball to help Chelsea build up, that will be the thing that I think is a more relevant conversation. Because it's not like Chelsea were exposed defensively in this game without Levi Colwill. It was more the case that something wasn't quite there. And I think it's quite simplistic to put it all down to Levi Colwill not being there. I look at, Enzo Fernandez is one of his poorest outings for a long period of time. Cole Palmer was anonymous. Joao Pedro, who's been obviously very dominant. So you got to move on. Chelsea have got to click into gear. They did not have a pre-season. They've probably been shaken, and I think Maresca's probably been shaken by that Levi Colwill injury. But you've got depth. You've got to respond to it, and the players have got to respond to it. I'm excited to see what's to come from Estevao Willian. I really am. Everyone's excited whenever this kid basically gets on the pitch, and undeniably there's so much talent there and freedom that you really want to sort of exploit as much as you can. Andre Santos too, I'm excited to see how he develops, and I'm excited to see the battle between Joao Pedro and Liam Delap and what games they get used. I think that's going to be a thing for Maresca to gauge from game to game. Maybe this was a game for Liam Delap, but listen, that's easy to say in hindsight for him to start because Joao Pedro had been exceptional, and it's not like he's a small player. He's someone who can, very much confront defenders and put himself about. So again, it's frustrating. You shouldn't be going overboard. It's a long season, and I think Chelsea have a very talented squad to respond positively. And also, kudos to Crystal Palace. They are a very well-structured, tactically adept and a robust team under Oliver Glasner. They won the FA Cup. They beat Liverpool in a Community Shield coming back from 2-0 down. You don't do that if you're a bad team. This is not a Crystal Palace of 3 or 4 years ago that Chelsea used to regularly roll over. Yes, if Chelsea want to be at a high echelon, they should be beating Crystal Palace. But, this is not a pushover Crystal Palace. And the examination was there and Chelsea couldn't find a winner. Those are my thoughts. Please let me know yours on opening day in the comments below. And I will see you again very, very soon. All the best.